Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of The List on UWW-TV. I'm Dominic Ottens alongside Corey Moen, and for the next few minutes, we'll present our top 5 sports stories of the week and discuss why they made our top 5. Did your top 5 make our list? Let's find out. At our number 5 story, Isaiah Thomas has recently signed a 10-day contract with the Pelicans, along with DeMarcus Cousins, who has signed with the Clippers. Now, Corey, will these short contracts turn into anything for these two players?
No, they won't, and here's why. Let's look at both players. DeMarcus Cousins at the moment is washed up. Watching him play for the Houston Rockets, he was a liability on defense, and he had nothing offensively. And Isaiah Thomas, look, he hasn't played in 2 years. He hasn't played since the Washington Wizards. He's coming off of a debilitating hip injury a few years ago, and kind of the same thing as DeMarcus Cousins, except for the fact that he is a good offensive player, but he is a liability on defense.
Now, I heard you mention that hip issue, and I think that's honestly the unfortunate story for both of these guys is that they just haven't been able to stay healthy. The past few teams that DeMarcus Cousins has been on, he's been on the bench because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't been getting the playing time. And honestly, these guys are just, at this point in time, two names that we know, but they're going to be heading out of the league pretty soon. These guys may not get anything past a 10-day contract, and I don't think they'll get anything past a 10-day contract because, like you said, they can be a liability, and these are two very talented players that used to have talent, but again, it's just kind of continuing on from this point after the 10-day contract.
At number 4, MLB opening day has garnered attention with many surprises. The Brewers came to walk off against the Twins in extra innings, then lost the next 2 games. What team surprised you so far?
Well, I got to say that as a Brewers fan, it was kind of cool to see that walk-off win on the very first game of the season. I didn't have hope going into the 9th inning. I said, well, normal Brewers for you, but they were able to pull it out, and it was really enjoyable to see that. But then they just dropped the series to the Twins, and it's just kind of, well, there you go. That's the normal Brewers that we're kind of used to seeing over the past couple seasons. But the Reds are currently leading the NL Central right now. So what the heck? Anything can happen. I know it's still early, but hey, man, this is just a start I didn't really expect.
Dom, I'm going to go with the Orioles. The Orioles this year are supposed to be a rebuilding team. The pitching staff, relatively unknown. The only player that you could probably name on that pitching staff is Matt Harvey. The Orioles, obviously not supposed to be a good team this year, supposed to be rebuilding, but, good for the Orioles. I know it's early. They're probably not going to stay in contention, but it's a good start for them.
I think the Orioles are definitely going to be a team that you can look out in the AL because I would expect that their pitching to continue kind of this hot streak, like you said. And then the NL Central, I think, is going to be a very interesting division that we're going to be looking into. The Cardinals and the Brewers are kind of the top 2 expected to win the division, and that's kind of been the opposite right now. I know it's still early in the season, but they're teams that are expected to do well, and yet, that's the Reds and the Pirates currently doing really well, so just keep an eye on it. So don't count on anybody yet. But we're going to have to take a short commercial break, but coming up on the list, we have news on the NCAA transfer portal, so we'll be right back.
UWW-TV has been an important part of the campus and community since 1980.
Not only providing on-air learning opportunities for broadcast journalists and electronic media production students,
but educating and entertaining our audiences with award-winning news, live sports coverage, original programming,
as well as dedicating the mission to developing creative collaborations throughout campus.
For more information, visit our website, our 24/7 stream, and like us on Facebook.
Check us out because you gotta see what's on UWW-TV. The James R. Conner University Center on UW-Whitewater's campus is a gathering place for students of various cultures, backgrounds, and lifestyles. The UC is a great source for information, campus tickets, meetings, entertainment, food, gallery exhibits, workshops, and all of your hot card needs. Whether you're looking for a place to study between classes or just a place to hang out with friends, the UC is the place for you. For more information on the UC, please visit uc.uww.edu or go to facebook.com/uc.uww.
Practicing social distancing is imperative to maintaining safety in the residence halls this year in lounges and common areas. For kitchens and laundry rooms, we have capped occupancy at 2 students in these spaces at any given time. Students will not be allowed to wait for their laundry in the laundry rooms, and if 2 students are already in the space switching laundry, please wait outside for one to leave. We ask that those using these spaces are efficient with their time, so all students have the option to use the common areas as needed. We thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Welcome back to the list on UWW-TV. Let's continue the countdown to this week's top sports stories. At number 3, the NCAA transfer portal continues to grow into reaching record-breaking numbers. Which of these athletes stood out to you, and why are there so many transfers this year?
Well, why there are so many, I think it's varying reasons. But one of the players that I'm looking at is actually a freshman guard out of Kentucky, Devin Askew. He has actually just entered the transfer portal, and he's a 5-star recruit. And Kentucky, they missed the tournament for the first time in who knows how long. And this is a program that has been proven to get great players and to make a great team, to make a really good run towards the end of the season, and he's leaving. And then on top of that, you have Nate Reavers, who everyone in the state of Wisconsin knows that he's entered the transfer portal, and he's a very talented, and he was a very key part of the Badgers offense and, well, I mean, just overall on the team, and he's leaving as well. So what this tells me is that there may be some players that are looking for a team that is heading in a direction that they want. Both Kentucky and the Badgers didn't end where they wanted to, and I know that some players can grow frustrated, especially after having to go through the season under all this COVID protocols and all the struggles that they've had to go through. So these new players may be looking for some new teams.
Dom, I'm going to go with Marcus Carr. He's the point guard out of Minnesota. He was their best player last year. He was their star player. He averaged 19 points a game, and in his final game in the Big Ten tournament, he scored 25. So look out for Kentucky to get Marcus Carr in the transfer portal.
Well, moving on to our number 2 story now. At our number 2 spot, shortstop Francisco Lindor signs a 10-year, $340 million contract with the Mets, making him the 3rd highest paid player in the MLB. Now, Drew Holiday also signed a big contract with the Milwaukee Bucks for $160 million. Now, are these massive contracts worth it for these teams?
Yes, and here's why. Because you're going to get very good players. I think you're going to get high value for these players. But let's start with Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor is, by all accounts, going to be a transcendent shortstop for the Mets. He's going to be a great player for them. And in the next 10 years, expect the Mets to win the World Series. And as for Drew Holiday, look, the Bucks found their big 3. Okay, now it's Drew Holiday, Giannis, and Chris Middleton. And the Bucks for years have been looking for a big 3 as well.
Well, all I got to say is that just look out for what this can do to the ball club, because I'm not sure what kind of message you send to all the other players when you give one player all of this money. So just keep an eye out for team chemistry and how they're going to do down the road.
Stay tuned. We'll wrap up this edition of the list with our number 1 story of the week right after this.
Warhawks know what it takes to become champions. At the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, our student athletes pursue excellence with a determination that inspires everyone on campus. Warhawks are smart. Warhawks are strong. Warhawks value service. We prepare our student athletes for life after college. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Come be part of the Warhawk family.
Turn us on. Flip them off. 91.7 WSUW.
91.7 is a student-run radio station serving the Whitewater area with a variety of original programs, live sports broadcasting, community events, and more. So turn us on 91.7 FM or stream us live at 917theedge.com.
UW Whitewater Athletics, a relentless pursuit of excellence across 22 sports, powered by a tradition of success. 20 national championships, 17 since 2002. 61 individual national titles. 24 National Athletes of the Year. 616 All-Americans. 115 Conference Scholar Athletes of the Year. 1,500 community service hours annually. Be a part of the tradition and join the Warhawk family.
In order to safely provide desk services, plastic barriers will be installed at all operational residence hall desks. Student employees will wear face coverings, and any lines that occur will be spaced out via visual markers on the floor.
And welcome back to The List on UWW-TV. It's time to reveal our #1 sports story of the week. At our #1 spot, the NCAA tournament continues to keep fans on the edge of their seats with all the thrilling games this past month. So Corey, which games have stood out to you in the tournament?
Dom, I'm actually going to go with UCLA and Gonzaga just from the other night. That was one of the best college games I think I've ever watched. You talk about how good Gonzaga is, but just the grit and the grind that UCLA showed. Gonzaga, they had the bigs, but UCLA was able to show just toughness down low, and Jalen Suggs just made an unbelievable shot to end that game.
I'm going to have to agree right there with you. I think that game was kind of what what the NCAA tournament is all about. This is an 11 seed that started in the first 4, and then they made it to the last 4. It's an 11 seed versus a 1 seed. You got the game winner at the last second in overtime. And you got the best team in college basketball right now going for a perfect season. I mean, you can't get any better than a game like that with everything that was on the line. And I got to say, props to UCLA and the fight that they had. It was an incredible game, and best of luck to their team, and congrats to them getting the Final Four. But with all that being said, that's gonna do it for our show today. We'll be back next week to talk more sports headlines. For Corey Moen, I'm Dominic Ottens. We'll see you then.